So on 9/11, I was in Northern Ireland flying Lynx helicopters down in South Armagh, and I'd come into the operations room that afternoon, early afternoon, to look at the next tasking. And we used to have a TV in the corner of the operations room, which used to have sort of Sky News traditionally, or BBC News, a news channel on there. And I just glanced up and saw the plane hit, I think, the second tower. And I remember just asking somebody, which movie is this? Because quite often when in downtime or quiet time on those operations, people would put in a DVD or a tape and watch something. And I just assumed it was some sort of movie. And of course, it was live when someone said, no, sir, this is the news. It's just happened, which was a shock. But as I left, we had to then go and do, our flying operations. So for us, it was sort of, you'd seen something that was shocking and you couldn't quite get your head around, but you didn't have the luxury of time to really process it in the moment. It took, quite a bit of time for us to realize what was happening over the next few hours. But of course, as planes were then required to land when international airspace was shut, that's when we started directly feeling the impact, even in Northern Ireland, as international jets were just looking for somewhere to land because they could no longer, continue their flights into the US. The conversations we were having, both within our team and more broadly with friends and family back home, were really just uncertain sort of discussions about what does this mean? What do we think this might mean for us? For me personally, 9/11 didn't have an immediate impact, but for the next many years, it did see me move into roles where I was either focused from the UK in supporting those who were forward in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, or actually there myself. I spent nearly 4 years in Afghanistan and more years in other places linked to it. So, it did absolutely have a huge impact over time. The attitude of the British military, or the ethos, I don't think changed at all after the attack per se. Many in the military had already seen Gulf War and had been in Northern Ireland and Bosnia, and I'd spent time in Bosnia and Northern Ireland already at that point. So there were people who were combat hardened, let's say, but it was a minority probably of the military. And certainly we hadn't had a large expeditionary type operation since Gulf War. And therefore, for many, this was the first chance to see whether what we'd been trained for was going to be fit for purpose. And that was quite exciting, but obviously nerve-wracking for people in equal measure. For many people, it isn't just a commemoration of the Twin Towers and remembering what we saw and where we were when we saw it. For many of these families, 9/11 is far more personal because they lost sons and daughters, husbands, brothers, as a direct result of having to deploy to places to deal with the impact of that that attack and the threats from Al-Qaeda, etc. So we must remember that it's not just about commemorating those who died in New York, and I'm not suggesting people will, but we also must remember with every death that followed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, there is a human cost and a human story and a family that's still grieving.